guys, so this is another Let's Talk, but it's a little bit different because I've been thinking about this one for a long time, and it's kind of like a good chunk of my story that I haven't really shared all of before. First of all. Second of all, I just couldn't imagine myself just saying all this. It's kind of hard to explain. So, yeah, you're going to hear it all said through my app that reads things out loud. So I tried to pick a comfortable female voice for it and everything, and hopefully it comes out all right. But here it goes. If you hear random background sounds, it's because, I am autistic and have Tourette's and I can't sit still. You'll learn about that here in a minute. Let's see, we'll put it right here. You guys still there? Yeah, you're still there. Okay.
Not many people realize that I was diagnosed with autism at 31 years old. This meant I went my entire life, all through young adulthood, not knowing I had autism, being told I had various other conditions, and being put on just about every kind of medication possible. Being on so many medications caused medication-induced Tourette's. I was suicidal for a long time because no matter how hard I tried with doctors, therapists, and family, I could not explain to myself or to anyone else how I felt. I felt so different from everyone in my world. I felt like an alien and like nobody understood me. No diagnosis matched up to how I was feeling. I was in and out of the hospital because at the hospital I felt supported. I was hospitalized 23 times between the ages of 20 and 30 years old. I felt like there was somebody always there if I was really upset or freaking out about something, and I was able to have that support at all times. The kind of support I didn't feel was socially acceptable to need. Many times hoping that I would be permanently hospitalized that time. I know it sounds completely crazy, but I felt like the only way I was going to be able to survive this world was if I stayed in the hospital. I also know that being in and out of the hospital a lot put my family through a lot of pain. I don't think they understand the pain that I went through my entire life, masking and pretending my entire life, stuffing things inside instead of letting them out. I wet the bed until I was 22 years old. I remember masking so well I was masking my autism symptoms. I was holding them inside and having reactions later when I'm not around people. I went through a lot of self-injurious behavior such as cutting, burning, throwing myself down the stairs, punching myself in the eyes, starving myself, etc. I've also heard from many other females diagnosed later on in life that once you're diagnosed, it is very difficult or practically impossible to mask your symptoms any longer because you knew they were symptoms, you knew why you're having them, that they had a reason and rhyme. I wasn't an alien, I was just a person with autism. Meltdowns and shutdowns are very hard to explain to friends or family who did not know me to have these, and yet I did. I just was able to hide them so well. Like being so sensory sensitive, unable to tolerate loud noises, big crowds, or people I didn't know. Trying so hard not to interrupt people, stay on topic with people, having long conversations, being current with what was going on when my interests were otherwise. Now it's a little tricky and sometimes a little uncomfortable to just be myself because I don't want people to think I'm trying to appear autistic, and I've heard comments that I'm trying to seem more autistic when I'm really just being myself. I always just felt like an alien from another planet. After family's initial finding out that I had autism, I felt relief and was hoping for some of the support that I did not grow up having. I was looking forward to finally being able to breathe and being able to be honest about how I was feeling. That just didn't happen, and I can't really blame family for that because not only was I just finding out that I was autistic, they were as well, and they don't come prepared knowing how to deal with it or knowing how to support me, especially being diagnosed so late in life. Growing up without all the therapies and other supports that would have helped a lot. Having that would have prepared me as an autistic adult. I keep having thoughts or memories of things that happened to me, occurred to me, or experienced from childhood to adulthood that may have been typical signs or possible signs of autism. One of those is from 3rd grade and under, whenever we would have a fire drill, even though I knew it was a drill, just the sound of the fire drill I could not handle. I remember every single time putting my hands over my ears and screaming the whole time. One of my first jobs, we were hosting, I don't remember what the event was, but we were hosting a bunch of men. It was a meal, and I remember being so overwhelmed by all of these people that I remember ducking out and finding a place to hide and having a secret meltdown that nobody still to this day ever even knew about. I got so overwhelmed I thought it was just like normal anxiety or panic attack, but it was completely a meltdown. I also remember when I worked there, we would read the Bible every day out loud in a circle, and every time it would be my turn to read like clockwork, my voice would shake so terribly bad. I knew it was going to do it, and it did every single time, every single morning, every single day, and I couldn't really explain why. It wasn't like I was nervous. We did the same thing every day, but my voice would always shake with having to read out loud. I remember convincing myself to get through life, to stay alive, to get through everything by doing a thing where I would always have something to look forward to. It didn't matter what it was. It didn't have to be a big thing, just could be the most random thing, but I always had to look forward to something. Whether it was getting a letter in the mail at the weekend coming or whatever it was, I had to look forward to something. If I didn't have anything to look forward to was when I went downhill. I remember never knowing what was considered socially acceptable and always feeling awkward in social situations. Even to this day, when Facebook is like, remember this moment, and I see what I wrote or I posted 7 years ago and 9 years ago, before diagnosis, and finding it so embarrassing. I remember the many comments about my messy house. I remember when I was diagnosed, I took myself off Facebook for a long time because I was just like, it's too embarrassing to be so vulnerable and not know how to fit in on a public platform like that. Message. Growing up, I remember not knowing how to do long-distance friendships, studying my family like a science experiment and trying to remember their likes and dislikes, what they said was good or bad or appropriate or not appropriate or acceptable or unacceptable. All the social norms that people should already know. Studying everything and everybody, trying to make sure I remembered this thing and that thing because I just had to. I remember having these kind of like epiphanies when I was growing up, of like not knowing things that everybody else seemed to know. Things that were the norm to know, like knowing how many presidents there were, how many states there were, things like that. Not because I wasn't educated, because I was, but my brain didn't retain things that I didn't find interesting, and those things weren't that interesting to me, so I would constantly forget. I remember it took a long time for me to remember which side was right, which side was left, and I finally ended up remembering because my birthmark is on the right side of my stomach and right is correct, so which side is my birthmark on? Right side, yes, that's correct. That's how I remembered right and left. I remember saying I would know all these random things when I get older, because everybody does eventually. I'll know all the social norms. I'll know what everybody else seems to know, that's just common knowledge. I remember doing so much conforming and so much masking, denying what I would like as a person, but trying to be socially acceptable. Trying to like the things that a female my age would like or should like or was the social norm. Denying anything that I could have thought was my interest, and not even knowing who I was, not or even knowing what I really liked or my personality, because I had pretended to be somebody else for so long. I remember decorating my apartments that I had with what I thought any other typical female adult my age would decorate with. What was normal? If people came over, that they would think all of this is, this is a typical adult female apartment. This is nice, it didn't matter what I like. I just had to make sure that it was acceptable, that I was doing it the right way, that I was doing it the way society did it.
I guess that is all, folks. I know on some parts it randomly goes to a different voice. I don't know how I did that. But you know what? I don't have the thing, but a lot of autistic people have the thing where you have unusual intonation. You go up and down, or just random, or one melancholy. Anyhow, so there you go. Didn't do it on purpose, but while that was going, I made a million little 3x3 magnetic cubes. That's my story, you guys. Hope it can help some of you, and it's a lot of transparency for me, but it feels good to tell my story.